What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Exhaust Note. Y'all know me. I'm your host, Wile E. Coyote, and today we're talking about tunes. I got the M3 tuned over the winter, started driving it a couple times this year, and the question is, was it worth the money I spent? We'll talk today about the positives, the negatives, whether I think it was worth it, and whether I think you should do it if you've got an SMG E46 M3. Let's go. All right, go for it. All right, so as many of you know, I've got a 2004 E46 M3, Emola red over black leather. This is an SMG car, and so it has their sequential manual gearbox, which I know many people have their own opinions about. I have been surprised since I bought this car about how much I've actually enjoyed driving it. I do have another 5-speed, manual car, so it's not the end of the world to me. Yes, I know this one's 6-speed, but anyways. So I've actually been surprised about how much I've enjoyed it. But, this was what you would call the standard M3 spec. So as some of you may know, the M3 came out in a couple different versions. There was the standard spec. You had the competition package, or the CSL in Europe as it was known. Then you had a couple of sort of race versions of the car as well. And in the competition pack for the SMG, they did some funky things with the transmission. They played with the computer a little bit and made the shifting a bit smoother, the shift points a bit quicker. They also did downshift rev matching, among maybe a couple other things. The car obviously had several other distinguishing features besides just what was done to the transmission. However, as people have come to find, you can do that same tuning in a standard M3. You just need to have the right program, the right software, and know how to do it. I have been thinking literally since day one about doing this sort of tune, and I finally last year decided that I really wanted to do it. It's the software tune itself is not very expensive. Depending on where you go, it's 150, 200 bucks, maybe 250. So the software tune itself is not actually that bad. I was a little bit nervous about screwing up the car, so I sort of decided that I really didn't want to do it myself. I was willing to pay a little bit more money to send it out to somebody else to do it. And frankly, I'm sort of glad that I did that. The other decision that I had to make was when I sent the computers out, the company also did an actual engine tune. And the place that I sent this to, and I won't mention it by name, supposedly guarantees an extra 25 horsepower gain and 35 pound-feet of torque guaranteed by dyno. I know, this car is now, 16, 17 years old at this point. So I know that it certainly has lost a step, and it definitely is not its, 333 horsepower from the factory anymore. But I sort of figured, well, for maybe a little bit extra, it might be worth them putting the tune in there. It was sort of one of those as long as you have it type things. Kind of when you do any engine work or, you do any maintenance, it's kind of a, while you're in there, you might as well do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So I ended up putting the car away for the winter, and then the spring, biting the bullet, contacted the company, or really the shop. It's a very reputable shop here in the Northeast. Took the computers out, sent them into them. They kept them for about a week and sent them back. Put them in, plugged everything in the right way, went to start up the car, had my check engine light. Immediate sort of red flag that I was a little bit nervous about. But as soon as I started driving, I actually noticed a difference. Sort of. So again, as I said, I had them do both the CSL software, the competition pack upgrade, as well as a engine tune to give me a little bit extra horsepower, a little bit extra torque. Now this car is fully stock. There's no upgraded intakes. I don't have an upgraded exhaust or anything like that. I don't have headers or anything like that, so I haven't done anything to it. I've kept it fairly stock. I like it stock. It's kind of fun. I may do a little something extra down the road, but for now, it's totally stock. So, to me, what I could tell were a couple of different things. In terms of whether it was worth it, I'm going to actually break that up into two statements. Now, the smarter thing to really probably do would have been to wait, get this car out a couple times in the spring, drive it around, then send the computers in, get them tuned, send them back, and then take it out for a drive. Because over the winter, I sort of forget what the drive is like, And so I think to some extent it's been harder for me to gauge whether or not it was worth spending the money, because I didn't know, I couldn't entirely remember, what it was like. So really that would have been the smarter way to do it. But hindsight is always 20/20. So I will say up front, certainly I've noticed a big difference with the transmission tune, the competition pack software update. I definitely noticed the rev matching, which makes downshifting a bit more enjoyable, less jerky. I've definitely noticed, I would say, smoother upshifts. I don't know necessarily if they're quicker. I know the SMG2 transmission is one of the fastest shifting in the world, surprisingly, considering it's 20-some years old at this point. But so I already know it's fast. I don't know if I can say that with the programming it's any faster, but I definitely think it feels a bit smoother. I have reinforced the subframe, and so I know I can feel the shifting a little bit more in the subframe just because it's a bit more locked down. I used harder bushings when I did that subframe lockdown, so I can definitely feel that. So I can feel that piece of it. I think the shifting part is nice, and I really like the rev matching downshifts, because I think that part is really nice. It makes the driving much more enjoyable. The other thing that I've sort of noticed, which is actually sort of interesting, is that when I put this into standard automatic drive, it actually drives significantly better than it does on the standard SMG programming. It actually drives almost like a normal automatic car. When this car has just its regular SMG programming in it, it is so jerky in automatic mode. It stays way high in the revs and then down. I mean, the shifting is atrocious. And anybody, you jump on the forums, you talk to anybody who ever drives it in that mode, first of all, they do it for about 2 seconds before they realize it's terrible. But secondly, it's sort of a universal issue. And so I knew getting this software update would make it quite a bit smoother, and frankly, in that mode, it really does. Now, I still drive it in full manual mode, but my wife, I think if she ever drives this car, will really enjoy that. She doesn't want to drive it with the pedals. She just likes driving it in full automatic mode. So I think that part has been really nice. In terms of the other tune, right, the engine tune, part of the reason why I don't want to mention the place I brought it to is that I don't want to put them on blast and say that it was a scam or that they did a poor job or anything like that, because I don't think that's the case. I think for me, there are a number of different factors that have led me to think that maybe it wasn't worth it. So, first, again, as I said, the smarter thing would have been to really get the car out from winter, drive it around a bit, remind myself how it drives, and then send them in and get it tuned, because I think I really would have been able to do a much better comparison between the two, between the two drives. I also think additionally, the car, I might have been able to feel it a little bit more if I had some other modifications done to it. Having it totally stock, again, it is an older car. I'm sure on the dyno it's not going to do 330 horsepower anymore. I think that has also been a factor in terms of me being able to tell. Again, when you're talking 25 horsepower, 35 torque in a car that came from the factory, certainly at least over 300 in horsepower, I think 25 horsepower is not a huge bump. And so I would, at least to some extent, without additional modifications, question anybody's really ability to tell the difference. So for me, I think without doing any additional modifications, without changing anything else, I'm not really sure that I can tell the difference. I think, again, for the money that I spent, it wasn't the end of the world, and I'm not mad about it. But again, I think there are a couple of things that have led me to feel like if I was going to do it again, I might not pay for that. I would certainly pay for the transmission upgrade time and time again. I think that has made it significantly more enjoyable to drive, a lot more fun, a lot more responsive, and much, much more enjoyable as an SMG car. And I know it's not a 6-speed, and again, I'm not going to get into the whole SMG versus 6-speed discussion on this video, but to me, it was very hard, and I think continues to be difficult to find a 6-speed M3 in good condition, where the asking price is not astronomical, where you couldn't get into an E90 or an E92 for a similar price. I know they're different cars, but for me, in the price range that I was looking at and the time and the financial pieces that were in place when I was looking for this car, you know, this car was a phenomenal deal and it was in great shape. So I'm not sad at all that I picked up an SMG car. I actually really like, I've taken this car on the track a couple times. I really enjoy the SMG on the track. It allows me to much more pay attention to the other cars, to pay attention to my drive line. I don't have to worry as much about heel toe and where my feet are and all those kinds of things. It really, really allows me to pay attention to the other pieces on the track that are important. Do I think other people with the SMG should do these two tunes? I highly, highly recommend the transmission tune. Absolutely, without a question, hands down, you should do it. 100, 150, 200 bucks. You know, I'm not sure that I would spend much more than 200. There are a number of shops around the country that you can send your ECU, your DME to, your transmission computer, and they'll do it for you. You know, you can do it yourself if you have a computer, but you can also really mess things up. But you can send your computers out to these shops and they'll do it for you and send it back. In my opinion, given what can go wrong, and especially if you're not really all that comfortable on computer programming, it's worth the extra money to just send it out and have somebody do it and know it's done right. You know, it's one thing if you've got a Carly and you can kind of turn daytime running lights and things like that on and off, but to me, this was enough messing around with my engine and my engine computer that it just was not worth me trying to do it myself to save a couple bucks. I was willing to pay a little bit more for somebody else to do it. So again, I think if I were you and you have an SMG car, I would absolutely send it out to a shop to have them do the tune. I think you will not regret it, and you will be very happy that you did. Do I think you should do a performance tune? I think that all depends on how you've got your car set up. I think if your car is totally stock like mine, I'm not sure I would spend the money to do it. I just think you're not going to notice that big of a difference. Again, if you know, it's not that much more and you can just go for it and do it, then more power to you, I suppose. But in my opinion, I'm not sure it was worth the extra money. I don't really think you notice it in day-to-day driving. I think that money could probably be better spent elsewhere. If you have upgrades to your car, so if you have engine modifications done, if you've got a better intake, if you've got headers or you've got an exhaust or any of those kinds of things, I think you will notice a bigger difference. And I think a lot of these shops can also custom tailor your tune to those modifications. And I'm willing to bet you can probably eke a little bit more out of the car and out of the tune and out of those modifications. And so I think in that case, if you have those done, then I would say yes. I think it's probably worth the money that's spent. Again, even if it's, you know, $300-400 more on top of the transmission tune, I think it's probably worth it. You know, I think it makes the car a little bit different of an animal. It makes it a little bit more enjoyable to drive. And so to me, I think that would be a way financially that it's worth it. If you have a totally stock car, I'm not sure you're going to notice a difference. And so in my opinion, I would not spend the money to do that. But I think the transmission tune is a little bit different, and that I absolutely have noticed a difference in, and I would absolutely suggest that you do it if you haven't already. So that's really all that I have for this episode. But tell me what you guys think. Have you done the transmission software tune? Have you done an engine tune on your car? What are your configurations? Have you noticed a difference? I'm really interested to find out. I kind of want to, you know, I don't want to just be a guy in a vacuum. I'm really interested to see if I'm the only one that can't tell, or maybe others can't tell, or maybe I'm just crazy. So tell me what you think down in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the channel. I really, really appreciate it. And I will hopefully see you soon. Until next time.